Welcome back. Today we are going to be covering an article that could easily be summarised as the Pussy Pass. As there is slightly more to it, I want to go into a little more detail, along with what I think should have happened. Lavinia Woodward, Oxford student too bright for prison, is spared jail for stabbing boyfriend. This early in, I want to tell you now what I would personally have done if I was the judge. I would have sentenced her to prison, not a suspended sentence, not community service, a blade cut a man. That shows intent, obvious intent. Doesn't matter if it was drunk and fueled, she still did it. Time must be served, and rehab must be imposed or enforced. An Oxford medical student too bright to be given a prison sentence has been allowed to walk free from court, despite the judge acknowledging that she broke her bail conditions. Lavinia Woodward, 24, who stabbed her Cambridge University boyfriend in the leg with a bread knife, was spared jail yesterday as she was commended for her strong and unwavering determination to address her drug addiction. Later on in this article, we will be discussing this lady's academic background. For now though, I want to focus on the bail conditions being broken and yet somehow she being allowed to walk free from court. The bail conditions included not contacting the ex-boyfriend or boyfriend. If they're still together, then they deserve each other, honestly. Turns out, she texted him, expressing her deepest sorrow at what she had done to him. In my head, the first thing I think is this like one of the crappiest British rom-com plots ever to exist? As if the judge has seen this and gone, oh, that's so romantic. You cut him because you were drunk or on drugs, and even though you were explicitly told not to contact him, you did to express your sorrow. And that is a good enough reason, while breaking your bail conditions, a good enough reason to allow you to walk free. To me, this is unacceptable. You broke the rules set before you. It doesn't matter what you were doing, you still broke them. You really should be in a prison for a bit of time. This, to me, does seem like a pussy pass. And the academic part, well, to me, it sets a dangerous precedent that if you have potential or a good academic background, it's okay, you can go out and commit a little crime because you won't get punished for it as you should, because somehow you are different from the plebs and oiks beneath you. The decision was last night criticised by criminal justice campaigners who said that the lenient ruling would deter men who had fallen victim to domestic abuse from coming forward. And let's face it, there is enough of a stigma around male victims of domestic violence anyway, without compounding it with this. It comes 4 months after Judge Ian Pringle QC described Woodward, an aspiring heart surgeon, as an extraordinarily able young lady, whose talents meant that a prison sentence would be too severe. I'm just glad that she was drunk, because after all, being a trainee heart surgeon, she might have tried to stab him there instead. And I don't think prison would have been too severe for someone with that particular talent. I would consider it justice. Standing trial in May, Woodward pleaded guilty to unlawful wounding after she punched and stabbed Cambridge student Thomas Fairclough whilst under the influence of alcohol and drugs. Now this raises a very interesting point about drugs and employment. While employers are not meant to discriminate, if someone puts on their employment or application or their resume that they have spent time in rehab for substance abuse, do you think the employer is going to want to take that person on even if they possess certain skills that may have been tarnished or damaged by the substance abuse? If I was looking to employ someone with that particular skill set, I would not take someone who has gone through rehab over someone that hasn't. It sounds like discrimination, and possibly it is, but I think an employer has a right to choose who they'd want to hire, and I don't think they'd want to hire some snob that abused drugs and alcohol and committed unlawful bodily harm. The court had heard that she had attacked Mr. Fairclough, who she had met on the dating app Tinder, when she discovered that he had contacted her mother when he realised she had been drinking. Oh well now, the court may as well have said to her, well, snitches get stitches and you get to walk free because of it. Enraged, she was said to have thrown a laptop at him before stabbing him with a knife, also injuring 2 of his fingers. Woodward then tried to stab herself with a knife before he managed to disarm and restrain her. In the comments to this video, tell me what you think should have happened to Lavinia Woodward as a result of this case. I.e., would you have her sentenced to jail, or would you also stand by Mr. Pringle and declare her not guilty because of the factors we are about to address. However, Judge Pringle told the court that he would take an exceptional course and defer sentence, hinting that she would be spared prison so as to not damage her chances of becoming a surgeon. Whilst awaiting sentence, Woodward then returned home to her mother's villa in Milan, during which time she was seen shopping at fashion outlets whilst carrying a designer Chanel bag. This is going to crop up later, but I may as well spoil it now. This young lady is considering her options and possibly pursuing a PhD in another country because she is recognised in this country for the crime she committed. And second, if somebody is being investigated or charged or currently on trial for committing a crime like that, surely she should have to stay in the country while the trial goes on. And finally, going back to her mother's villa, talking about shopping and Chanel bags, does this not sound a tad elitist? Or as if you're trying to paint her as that, which in hindsight almost sounds like she is in fact a white privileged female. White. Hashtag death to the white race. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Resuming proceedings at Oxford Crown Court yesterday afternoon, Judge Pringle said that there had been many mitigating features in the case as he handed Woodward a 10-month jail sentence, suspended for 18 months. His comments followed pleas by Woodward's legal counsel James Sturman QC that she be given a conditional discharge due to her unique vulnerability, remorse and good character. It is possible that I take a far too cynical view on crimes and punishment. My general thought process is, if you commit a crime, then you should accept the punishment and do that. Rhyming time. Yeah. I also firmly believe in rehabilitation. I'm aware that it does not always work and it is dependent on the type of crime, and of course whether or not it is related to drug rehabilitation as well. They are separate things entirely and they themselves carry different results and statistics. So it's possible my view is slightly skewed, but I don't understand how remorse for doing something like that should play a part. Yes, you are guilty and you feel guilt, but you still did it. You did it because you have a problem. And yes, the problem should be treated, but the crime itself was an action, and the action has a consequence. It is possible I've completely gone off on a different tangent. If I have, by all means, correct me in the comments below. I'm more than happy to be corrected. The court also heard that Woodward had been fired from a new job at a shop in London 48 hours after being hired, when she was recognised by a customer. That is not a mitigating factor, that is a consequence of her actions. But also, if in fact true and that be the reason she was fired, she may have a case for unfair dismissal. That is a different case entirely. Mr. Sturman said that her notoriety was such that she can't even go to a nightclub in London, so she's recognisable. He added that she had undergone a sea change since staving off drugs and was now a different woman. And despite breaching her bail conditions by texting her victim, Woodward was praised by Judge Pringle for confessing her guilt and deep sorrow for her actions. Can you just imagine in your head for a moment the super romantic setting? You stabbed your boyfriend in the leg. One of the bail conditions is that you must not contact him, but in your heart, you cannot help but tell him that you love him, and you are sorry for stabbing him in the leg, and it totes won't ever happen again, because you've gone clean. Yeah, me neither. Although it was against your bail conditions, you contacted your partner to fully confess your guilt and your deep sorrow for what happened. There are many mitigating features in your case. You have no previous convictions of any nature whatsoever. I find that you were genuinely remorseful following this event. You had an immaturity about you which was not commensurate for someone of your age. Reports from the experts make clear you suffer from an emotionally unstable personality disorder, a severe eating disorder, and alcohol-drug dependence. Most significantly, you have demonstrated over the last 9 months that you have determined to rid yourself of your addiction and have undergone extensive treatment and counseling. You have demonstrated to me a strong, unwavering determination to do so despite enormous pressure under which you were put. My vagina. In short, this is a pussy pass. I will say remorse is one very good reason to avoid a jail term, and I can certainly understand why the judge said it. But I personally also know, and I'm going to use this excuse briefly, if this was a male student, we can be damn certain he would be in prison. His career would be over. As far as this girl's future goes, it is more than likely going to take place outside of this country. And as much as I believe she belongs in a prison, I do respect that showing remorse to such an extreme where you break your bail conditions to do so shows that you have moved on, you have tried to grow and improve, which is a factor the court considers, but at the same time I still believe you should have gone to prison for a length of time. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you all for listening.